but we also want to catch up with the Kings, current and past Kings as well. And we have that opportunity right now. Dave, you reached out to this guy, Bonzi Wells.
Yep.
And he was one of the first to reach back. And so here we are catching up with the Kings. Let's bring him in via the guest hotline here. Bonzi, how are you this morning?
I'm good, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
We're great.
We're probably same as you, trying to find things to do and trying to fill time. And I don't know. You're out in Indiana, right, Bonzi? Is it out here in Northern California? We've got a shelter in place. Are they getting in there with you guys, keeping you home, or are you just kind of deciding to stay home? How are you living?
They haven't started the shelters or anything like that. They haven't put us on like a major quarantine or anything. They're just advising people to stay home. Just go to places where you need to go to, pharmacy, food, things like that you need to go do. Other than that, they're just telling guys to stay home. And if you do congregate, no more than congregations of 10 people.
Well, I'm sure you found out the news the same way we did. If we kind of take this back to the NBA world when it was a week ago today, the Thunder and the Jazz were about to tip off, and then that game doesn't happen. We hear about Rudy Gobert and so on and so forth. How did you, take that news in? It was all shocking to us, but what was that like for you?
I think I was just like the rest of the world. I mean, it was just coming in layers, just the layers up, and it was just getting deeper and deeper, and that's when you just knew the severity of the virus and how, severe it can impact the country. So, I have a son that plays college ball who's looking forward to the national championship. He plays junior college, and he was getting a chance to play in the national championship. He was so excited, and to see a lot of guys like himself and the NBA players. I actually coach high school too, basketball, and to see guys not get a chance to fulfill their dream of their end game of winning a championship, competing in the tournament to be the number one team standing. So, I mean, it sucks for everybody, and I'm just like everybody else. I have a really bad hangover not having sports, and it's tough. And I'm trying to find things, daily to try to fill the void. And I find myself doing what everybody else is doing and watching old videos of myself and my kids and just anything to kind of pass by time.
Bonzi Wells with us. We want to catch up with you on what you've been doing. We obviously want to ask you some old war stories from your time with the Kings. But, something I've never asked you, Bonzi, and I apologize, you've been asked this a billion times. How did you get the nickname Bonzi?
How did I what?
How did you
get the nickname Bonzi?
Yes.
Oh man, it's a whole story, but I'll make it quick. My real name is Gawan Wells. That's me, my father and my son's name. But Bonzi was just a nickname that was given to me from my mother, and the name Bonzi evolved from Bon Bon because my mother craved bonbons, and I don't even think they even make these things anymore. But she craved bonbons when she was pregnant with me. And one of our favorite shows growing up was Happy Days, and they had this character on there named the Fonz. So my name went from Bon to the Bonds to Bonzarelli to just Bonzi. So my name evolved kind of in the same way Fonzie did on Happy Days. So my name just kind of evolved and just stuck with me. And people who know me, been knowing me for 30 years, didn't even really know my real name. They always just thought Bonzi was my name because I've always went by it.
And that is, I did not know that story, so I'm curious. It was when she was pregnant. So were you always like was there ever a point in your life when you weren't a Bonzi?
I don't remember. It was always funny. From back when I remember, elementary days when teachers were doing roll call and all that stuff. And my last name was Wells, so I was always one of the last gentlemen called.
Yep.
So they would call my name, and people would just look around, and I'd put my hand up, and they'd be like, they always chalk my name up. I mean, my name was terrible, spell name. So the teacher would kill it, and they'd be like, "Who is that? Like, go on? Who? Right. I thought your name was Bonzi." Like, and I would always get the jokers and the Snickers and all that stuff. So it was always fun. Laugh at it a little bit, but it's easier to go by Bonzi or Stutz, and I always thought it was cooler.
Now you said your son's name that too. So what does your son go by?
He goes by G Weezy. These kids got so many different terrific type nicknames. I can't even keep up with them nowadays, so I just kind of just call him G and just keep it G-rated.
Well, and one follow-up on that, too. I mean, you said he was trying to go for a playoff championship. You're coaching high school. I mean, this is new for everybody. How are you, try to even coach, father, and tell everybody the best way to get through this? Because none of us have ever gone through this.
Oh man, I'm trying. I just it's tough. You don't really know if you're saying the right things or if you're really I don't really know. This is uncharted territory for me, and luckily for our season, we lost a couple of days before they canceled the whole season for the high school basketball. So our season was actually over. So we had already had our farewell speech to our kids. But just for the other kids who was competing here in the state of Indiana, which basketball this is just a huge basketball state. You really feel sorry for them because that's what it's all about. That's what you work for, and not just our state, it's all the states across the country. That's what you fight for in sports. You want to start the season with a goal. You want to finish with the end game goal, and a lot of kids aren't going to be able to do that. Go to their prom. This a lot of stuff that we all took for granted that these kids won't be able to do.
Bonzi Wells joins us, and Bonzi, a lot of times Jason and I will talk. Jay, we'll all kind of ask ourselves, what Sacramento King that played for the team for 1 year, who had the biggest impact in Sacramento Kings history? And we land on you. There's other candidates, but considering, and maybe we're biased because that's the last time we made the playoffs. It seems so long ago.
Really?
Yeah, that is, sadly.
Bonzi, the last time we made the playoffs was when you were on the team. You and
what?
Yes.
Longest drought in the league.
Longest drought. And we're not blaming you, but we're just saying that last time you're the good luck charm. When you came here from the Grizz, and it was tough for you too. I remember, maybe not for you, but for us, because Bobby Jackson was traded. Bobby's like a god here, and
my goodness,
you came in and then Ron and that whole deal. I assume that was a really fun team for you to play for.
It was definitely fun. I don't. Back in my Portland days, we competed so hard against Sacramento, and I just always loved the way they played, their demeanor, their coaching staff. I loved coming to Sacramento, just the fans' energy, and it was just wonderful. So when I had the opportunity to come there, I was excited, but I was nervous, to be honest, because Bobby, like you said, Bobby Jackson is the loved player in Sacramento history. I mean, they loved him, and I was like, they're going to be hard on me,
right?
Because they traded for me, but I knew Bobby was going into a tough situation at Memphis because Memphis loved me the same way. So I just had a mindset that I'm just going to come in, play hard, bring my grit and grind type attitude towards the team, and hopefully it works out. And I think it was a perfect compliment. And then they brought in a guy like Ron Artest, who we are similar type players, and it just brought a toughness to the team that the city embraced. And I was just thankful that the city embraced me, and I loved every moment of it.
So I'm looking up your stats for that last playoff series. It was amazing. 23 points, 12 boards is what you averaged. I know it was only 6 games, but I see a 38-12, a 25-17, a 28-12, a 19-4. You just had monster numbers. What was it about that matchup with the Spurs that lent to you to have such a big series?
Well, in my position, I've always been confident that I could always score or be a key rebounder against anybody that I would go against because of my size. And I was always confident against guys like Bruce Bowen, Manu Ginobili, that they weren't going to be able to guard me, or if they do guard me and they send somebody, I was always going to make the correct play for the guy to get the open shot. And if he do miss it, I always felt confident I can get the board because I just know I'm a good rebounding guard. I'm a bigger guard, and I just know my toughness in me. So just throughout my years, I've always knew how San Antonio was going to guard me, and I just always found my niche on how to be able to be effective against them.
Bonzi Wells with us. Bonzi, before I say this, I want to disclaim. I want to throw a disclaimer out there. Ron Artest is one of my favorite people and one of the closest friends I've ever had in the sport. That being said, oftentimes Ron would say things where I thought maybe his cheese kind of slid off his cracker. and I remember that year. I think we were 8.5 out, and Ron guaranteed the playoffs. And yeah. I know how I reacted as a fan, but as a player, did you side-eye him and go, man, what kind of pressure are you putting on us, or did that just pump you up?
Oh, hell no. I was riding with him. If he didn't say it, I would have said it. because that's how we feel. We some warriors, and we never going to give up when you're a warrior. You know what I'm saying? Like, we knew what it was. We knew that we lost some games we shouldn't have lost, but we believed in us in that locker room, and I know once we threw it out to the fans, they was going to give us that energy to make it happen. And that's just what it's all about. It's a collective effort. We need the fans. We need our players to play at a high level. We need our announcers to announce at a high level. We need everybody to do it for us to do, to make it happen. And Ron said it, and we had to back it up, and the fans backed it up, and we made it happen.
you were also, when you made it, that, as we said, it's the last time the Kings made the playoffs. It was the final year for Rick Adelman, and he's kind of the legendary figure here that we just never really get to hear from. He's just kind of gone off and, he coached after that. But what was it like to play for him? It seemed like such a free-flowing, trusting offense, but in your words, what was it like to play for Coach Adelman?
You know what I loved about Coach? He let you be you. Yep. Like he wasn't trying to, like some coaches try to worry about your life all day long and be holding you accountable and this, and that. Coach was just a straight shooter. He was like, man, come to work and go home and be a family man and take care of your family and do what you got to do. And I respected that about him because he wasn't just like, basketball all the time, even though that's our job. He just understood that we have family. We had a lot of obligations on our plate. And he wanted us to make sure that we was strong enough to handle that part of it. And that's what I liked about him. The basketball stuff was easy. That was not easy, but that was just more of our relaxing time. But he just allowed us to be us. There wasn't no stress. It wasn't stress from the management. It was just all love all day long, and practices were fun. My teammates were awesome. I mean, just the whole vibe that he set around there made the place great.
You played for Portland, and that's probably what you're best known for. And then coming to Sacramento, you mentioned the fans. Did you see a lot of similarities between the fans at the Rose Garden and the fans at Arco? It seems like there are similarities between those two cities.
Oh, my goodness, it's crazy. I remember the first fan jam I had in Portland, and I experienced so much anxiety I almost threw up because I've never seen 20,000 crazy fans in there, not crazy, but just going crazy, just, just really supporting their team. And I was, just remember I went out there and I was a rookie, and this was the lockout season. And I was just like, wow, I'm in the show. And as I got to traveling around to different, arenas, I just remember Sacramento. I know this sounds cliche, but that guy with that daggone cowbell or whatever the heck that was, I just totally remember him behind the bench going crazy. And I was young. I probably wasn't even playing back then, so I probably had a even better seat to hear it the whole game. So so I just remember that, and I was just like, wow, this is real. This is how it is, and consistently. When I came to Sacramento, it was the same thing. The fans are great. The people, the teams are always good and entertaining. So when I had a chance to be a part of it, I was really excited.
Yeah, as we're talking with Bonzi Wells here on The Drive, and I know you came out for our fan fest, sports fest that we had out here, and the one thing we always say, Bonzi, about this community, it's kind of like once you were a king, you're always a king, and it's amazing. You had 1 year here, but people still will always remember you and still welcome you here. And maybe that's similar to Portland. I know you put in a lot more time and effort there, but have you noticed that anytime you ever came back here, how much love you receive?
It's crazy, but, I've never got asked to come back to Portland or anything since I've left Portland. Wow. Not one time, and that's really unfortunate. But, the way, and that's why I'm so appreciative of the way Sac handles it. Sac, Memphis Grizzlies, New Orleans Pelicans, Houston Rockets, they all showed me love since I've left their teams respectively, and they understand that we're kids when we come into this league. We don't have the world figured out, so we're going to make mistakes. But they never held that over my head about making an immature mistake. They just understood that I played with heart, and I played hard as I possibly could, and they respect me for that. So I totally appreciate you guys just for always showing love.
Well, and on that note, Bonzi, I've always wanted to ask you this. You and I are almost exactly the same age, and I remember, and I mentioned, how I love Ron Artest. It's one of my favorite human beings in the entire world, and one of the lessons I learned from becoming close with Ron was sometimes what you hear and appearances are not what they seem. And we all, anybody over 30 knows about those early Portland years. And you had some headlines, but then when I covered you, you were always just a gentleman. When you came out here and we were on that stage last year when it was 110 degrees, you powered your way through that thing. You've always been, I say this with all respect, but for lack of a better term, you've always been a sweetheart of a guy. So I'm curious, back in the Portland days with those headlines, how much of that was media and how much of that was young knuckleheaded stuff? Was that blown out of proportion when you look back on it years later?
Yeah. 95% of that stuff was all blown out of proportion in media. They were just making, we had a bunch of media back then that was just trying to sell papers, make something out of nothing, and almost make themselves relevant. Because we didn't do anything that somebody else, normally wouldn't do, and they just kind of like the stuff that we did back then. They just laugh at it now. It's nothing. But they made it like we were jaywalking with the intent to kill. I literally got a jaywalking trespassing ticket before.
Oh my God.
Literally. And they put it in the paper like I literally was jaywalking. They called it trespassing. And they put it in the paper like I was trespassing. I was just leaving dinner and parked in a parking lot that I wasn't supposed to and didn't realize it. And they gave me a trespass. So it was just more, They was blowing stuff up. I remember, I never really talked about this, but I remember the Sports Illustrated article. I still remember it to this day when they said, I don't know if you remember this, when they said Bonzi Wells said he hates the fans. I still remember it to this day. I don't know if you remember. You might have to look it up.
I do remember
Sports Illustrated was coming. I remember it was this guy. He was a clown. He was just coming in. Didn't nobody know him. We just knew Sports Illustrated was coming in. We thought thinking they coming in to do a feel good story about us. Just trying to change the stigma. But this guy was just asking a bunch of weird questions. And I remember he asked me about, how do you feel about when the fans boo you guys? This is when it was a rough time for us. And I said, I hate it, but yet still that we deserve to be booed because we're playing bad right now. He didn't write none of that. The first quote he said is, Bonzi Wells said he hates the fans. And that ran with me for the rest of my life. Now, mind you, this is way before we had the power of the social media and speak back. So that was me. That was my line that the Portland people ran with, like, oh, Bonzi hates us. And it was a trickle-down effect, and they was doing everybody like that, just writing these old one-liners like we did something. And it was just so stupid. And that stuff stayed with us for our whole careers. Cost us opportunities, cost us jobs, everything. But they don't really understand that.
Well, and I think the article you're citing, I think it was John Wertheim who wrote that, and one of the things he put in there was Rasheed Wallace, who was having none of it at all at any time, who used to wear a T-shirt that said, F word what you heard. And you guys were called the Jailblazers. You were called all these names, but I got to ask too: did part of that give you guys that us against the world, only we know the truth, we're a tight locker room mentality that maybe we didn't see on the outside?
Well, that's how we had to keep it because we were tight knit. We knew what we were about. We didn't care what the world thought about us at the moment. We were young and kids. We didn't understand the power of Associated Press. I know I didn't. I'm from a country, no small town in Indiana, so I didn't. Because we was like, hey, we know what we're doing. We in here, we tight knit. We keep everything in house. Anything that happens, we keep in house. We don't got to tell the true story because we know what it is. But we didn't realize the domino effect later on in life, how people was going to perceive us. Because perception is reality, and if people perceive you as being crazy and wild, they're going to handle you in that respect. So I was just so used to getting handled as being a wild, crazy dude. Like everybody who knows me and see me, they always want to handle me with caution because they're like, "Oh, Bonzi Wells coming. He's wild. Don't set him off because he might be that guy that we read about."
Right.
He's crazy. But not knowing that my grandfather was the pastor of the church. I grew up in church. I'm a humble guy, family dude. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't really know me, but when I'm on the court, I'm a warrior because that's how I was raised. I was raised with it from a dad who told me I couldn't smile when I played ball because that meant I was bagging and taking the game not serious. So that's how I was raised, and people didn't know that. I wasn't going to tell people that story, but that's just what it was for me. That's just how I was raised, but people just want to continue to put the perception on you and live and keep it on you. And that stain has never got off of me, and it sucks.
Well, we know we have a different version of Bonzi Wells here for sure.
We don't have that stain.
Yeah. And
you're one of the coolest cats we know, man.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us, Bonzi. Again, stay safe, be well out there. It was so great to catch up with you. We'd love to do it again in the future.
And I appreciate it. And one more thing, actually, it's funny. Me and Rasheed Wallace is starting a podcast together. We're going to call it "Let's Get Technical" with Sheed and Bonzi. So we're going to be able to finally have our platform. So be looking out for it. We're filming content now. We're going to start it from the small scale and kind of build it up. But we're excited. I'm actually excited. I'm actually getting Rasheed to talk on wax. That's what I call it.
Great show name.
Talk on wax. So yeah. Hey. So it's just So I'm excited about it. So, you guys look out for it. All the fans look out for it.
We will.
Dude, yeah, and promise me you'll text us, and we'll bring you back on, and we'll promote the hell out of it, Bonzi.
Anytime. You guys got my number.
Yes,
Hit me up anytime. I love Sacramento. I love you guys. I really appreciate you guys being 100 with me from day one. So anything you need, let me know.